Hey guys, it's your boy Mixtape Banks coming back at it again this week with another video. This time we're talking about Tom Thibodeau and what he has in store for the Knicks and us Knicks fans. All right, so last week we went over his first Zoom presser, and that can be found on the New York Knicks YouTube channel. This week we're going over the second and third presser that he did on the New York Knicks YouTube channel. All right. There's a lot of little tidbits of information. Let's get into it. Bless up. First and foremost, I want to let you guys already know, it feels like a lot of the presser was dedicated to getting Thibs to talk about issues around the league or situations that were happening around the league. All right. So I felt like a lot of the interviewers, especially the reporters there that asked the questions, I felt like they were missing out on a few key points, right? Like, yes, you get a statement from Thibodeau on what's happening with Doc Rivers or what's happening with Jimmy Butler. Okay, those are interesting or whatever. But I feel like, especially if you are a New York beat writer, right? A lot of these guys write about New York sports. But it felt like a lot of times their questions that were directly related to the Knicks were kind of lacking. Like, I felt like there was a lot of opportunities for them to talk about more in-depth questions regarding the team and his plans, and they kind of fell flat on it, right? But I still think they might be worth a view. And I'm just going to give you what's my synopsis on his answers to the questions that he's been asked in those two pressers, okay? So first and foremost, one thing is clear, right? There were some players that didn't come. Some players came, but they didn't interact in the drills, which involve physical contact, and they had no real reason to, because a lot of them are going to be free agents and may or may not end up staying with the Knicks. So for them, the risk of a potential injury just isn't worth it, you know? So we look at Mitchell Robinson, right? First and foremost, I want to say I'm really happy to hear what I heard Tom Thibodeau say about Mitchell Robinson, right? A lot of us kind of peg him as just a rim runner. But look at Bam Adebayo. Came in, defensive monster, really raw, but he developed a really lethal skill set by taking advantage of the fact that he can put so much pressure on the defense just through his sheer athleticism. All right, so you look at Mitch is an athletic freak too, right? And we see him, practicing all these dribble moves and shooting and all that, and I don't expect him to do that, but I don't think he's afraid to put the ball on the floor. I think he's been limited and not allowed to. And Thibs made it clear that he does not want to pigeonhole Mitch. He wants to allow Mitch to explore the different aspects of his game that could potentially be there that we just don't get to really see, right? So maybe he does really have a ball handling ability. That'll be cool to see. It'll be interesting to see Mitch put the ball on the floor, put pressure on the defenses, and even if he can't shoot threes, it takes his game to that next level. Right? And you look at, I did a video on Mitch, his ability to put pressure on defenses just through a plain pick and roll is ridiculous, right? And the Knicks underused it. So if he can learn to get his athleticism to affect other teams' defenses without necessarily relying on a ball handler, that takes his game to the next level. Like, he doesn't have to be, crossing guys over. Maybe he even has that ability, but simplify it at first. Get him confident, putting that ball on the floor, and just really attacking the rim. I think he has the potential to do that. And I think Thibs sees that potential in him. And they said that they spent a little time together. He was there early on in the beginning, but he had family matters to attend to, so he went back home. So I think when Thibs really does get a chance to be around him, maybe he assesses him more. And maybe that statement was even Thibs saying, I've seen this for myself, that he has the ability to be more, right? So his response to Mitch, definitely he knocked that out the park. Every question that he was asked on Mitch, he basically showed us that he's not going to pigeonhole Mitch. He wants Mitch to develop to be all that he can be, right? Which makes sense, because if you ever watched Thibs, if you've ever watched a Thibs coach team, you know that the centers, they have to be versatile. They put the ball on the floor, they pass the ball, all that stuff, right? Even if he can't do it proficiently, your handle has to be good enough that you could do like Robin Lopez did for us years ago, where he dribbled the ball very slowly outside, anything, just be able to move the ball. That'll step his game up to a whole different level, because now it's not just your athleticism we have to worry about, but he's willing to pass the ball too. So can we even double team him, triple team him, whatever they do? Because one-on-one defenders just normally aren't quick enough for him, or he's just bigger and more athletic than them, so he can jump over them. So that was really good. We heard him talk about RJ. So Thibs he's a vet. He knows how to handle the media. He doesn't say too much because he doesn't want to get, all these ridiculous statements popping up everywhere. But we heard him talk pretty highly on RJ, right? Consistently. He did not consistently talk positively about any single player except for RJ. And that gives us hope. That gives us excitement, right? He likes what he's seen from RJ, or at least he gave us the impression that he's liked what he's seen from RJ. He's made it clear that RJ is a pro's pro. He's made it clear that RJ's there, willing to do the work, and they're working with him, developing him, and I'm excited for that. I think he also mentioned in the third presser that he was working with RJ, or rather the team was working with RJ and developing, getting him to play make in game, and he was really excited, or Thibs' version of excited, about what RJ had done in practice, or was doing in practice, as far as playmaking. And I've been telling you guys, I've made videos on RJ. RJ has the potential to be possibly a primary playmaker, definitely a secondary playmaker. He knows how to attack and put pressure on the defense. You can question his athleticism, you can question his quickness, but no matter what, he still draws fouls because he's able to get into the teeth of the defense. Not to mention, he has vision. Doesn't have shooters, but he has vision. We've seen it in college, and we've even seen flashes of it here in New York. The kid has vision. That makes him a whole different kind of threat. He plays defense, he rebounds the ball, he can pass the ball, and he can score. They were working on him with his shooting and with his playmaking. Those are things that would help elevate his game and make him that much more efficient, okay? We also heard him talk about Julius Randle, and if you watched my last week's video, I hinted towards this. Thibs may actually be in favor of Julius Randle, okay? Now, a lot of us are not necessarily huge fans of Julius. I actually liked Randle when he was on the Pelicans and when he was on the Lakers, especially when he was playing the small ball center position. It felt like that was the right fit for him. He was able to really dominate like that. But Thibs has said he's been a great vet. He's been a pro's pro. He's come in and he's done all the work, and he's done more so. He came in before anything was required, and he wanted to meet the guys and, all those things. So those are good things to hear. And if Thibs feels like he can turn around Randle, he's probably worth keeping. Again, I'm not super pro or super against Randle. I feel like we've seen him here make really bad decisions, but I think that if Thibs is confident in Randle and that he can get through to Randle, I think that there's an ability to get Randle to be a smarter basketball player. And I think ultimately that's been his issue, because physically no one's really stopping him. I mean, he's just bullying people. He's either quicker or he's stronger, and he's just a freak of nature that way. He's pushing guys out the way. But mentally, he gets beaten because they can triple team him, quadruple team him, quintuple team him, and he does not care. He will run into the defense and throw up a crazy layup instead of just passing the ball out. So he was productive for us last year, technically, if you look at stats, but it felt like in game he was almost a bit of like a hamper, right? Like he dampened the game for us. Like, even if we would have potentially lost more games without him, it felt like we would have been better off without him, because it felt like he went against what it was that we wanted, which is smart basketball. We wanted to see the ball movement. We wanted to see RJ get a chance, and he took a lot away from that. But if Thibs feels he can get through, which it sounds like he feels like he can get through, then it might be worthwhile to keep him. Or maybe he's just saying that because he's our highest paid player right now, and that's what he was told to do. I don't know. Thibs seems kind of like a straightforward kind of guy, and so I think he's being truthful. And a really quick note, we know that there's rumors that Frank has basically earned the starting spot already with Thibs, and that very well may be true, but it feels like from these last 3 pressers, he might feel like Frank and DSJ are making progress, but I don't think he's necessarily wowed by either one of them, because he hasn't necessarily said anything that strikes off as like surprised or enticed or even necessarily all that happy about Frank or DSJ. Now, that's not to say that he doesn't like them, he doesn't like what he's seen, because he very well could have, and he's probably just trying to keep modest so that way, you know, people don't put these exorbitant expectations on these guys, which we do, because if you look at what we've done, most people are down on DSJ right now, and there's a potential he makes a comeback. Now, I don't really love his game. I never really did, to be honest with you. I thought, yeah, it's great, he's athletic, he has, you know, sometimes it looks like he has the ball on the string, but he doesn't play defense, not a great shooter, not always the best decision maker. So I kind of like the fact that he's making it clear here, I'm not going to put unnecessary pressure on these young guys, because I think that's kind of what broke Knox, not to mention inconsistency. Same thing with Frank. I think he had a hard time establishing himself and establishing his confidence in the league, and the media and the fans didn't help. And I also feel like the same thing could be said of all of our players. You can see a lot of our fan base and media is really harsh on RJ, despite him being one of the most versatile rookies in the league and having records that put him, you know, in the same class as LeBron and Melo and all those guys. You know, it's not to say that he will be one of those guys, but that we don't appreciate the positivity that he's shown us. We don't appreciate the greatness that he's shown us. We only can talk about the failures or the negatives or the drawback. And that tends to be something that we tend to do as Knicks fans, or the media tends to do here when they talk about New York sports in general. So basically, we know, or at least I believe that we know, that Thibs feels Mitch has room to grow, and he wants to make Mitch grow. I feel like we know that he's high on RJ, and he's trying to develop RJ into the prototypical player for Thibs, which is not just a hard-nosed defender, but someone who is a playmaker and makes other guys around them better. Same thing goes for all the young guys. I think he wants to see them all develop, but for him, he wants to develop the team and the culture of the team, because overall to him, that's more important. And I think he might be a bit patient when it comes down to Randall. That's just my synopsis of those pressers that he's done. You guys go ahead and check them out. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. We have thousands of views, tens of thousands of view hours, and only 300 and some change subscribers. Guys, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and make sure you hit up the comments. Bless up.